Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Thunder Bay Border Cats are back. The team is about to take the field later this hour for the first time since the summer of 2019.
To mark their exciting return, Kurt Black is live at Port Arthur Stadium this evening as we await the first pitch between the Border Cats and the visiting Duluth Huskies, which is scheduled for 6:35. Kurt, this is a great day for local sports fans who've been waiting 4 long years to welcome the club back to Thunder Bay.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. What a beautiful night we have in store down here at the ballpark. Upwards of 2,000 fans are expected to be in attendance this evening for the Thunder Bay Border Cats' long-awaited return to Port Arthur Stadium. Now, August 13, 2019. That was the last time that we saw the Border Cats here at home. And at that time, I don't think anyone could have predicted the long and winding road that this ball club would have to travel to get back to this point. But the Border Cats and their all local ownership, well, they weathered the storm and are back for another summer here in the Bay. We're lucky enough to be joined by one of the people who has been so instrumental in making this night a reality, Border Cats General Manager Mike Tallery. Mike, it's finally here. I've been watching you and your staff and the whole team working tirelessly for this. What are your emotions now that the night has finally arrived?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. It's pretty surreal. It's execution mode now. You can only prepare so much. We've had, over 1,300 days, and the day is here. A lot of volunteers, a lot of staff have put a lot of hours into this. So it's just, we're ready to go. We're excited. The fans are lined up outside the stadium. There's live entertainment out there. It looks like the stadium is filling up. Very big thank you to you guys, your crew, and at TBT News, and everybody at Dougal Media. But we're excited. This is a big event. This is a big event, and a big thank you to all the season ticket holders, sponsors, everybody that's been so patient and has worked with us. Hopefully we can impress and put on a great show tonight.
Now, of course, this game has brought so much excitement. Was that part of what attracted you to taking on this position? Because you were one of the more recent additions joining on in the offseason. That must have been something that said, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, you know what? It was, at first, when I was approached, I heard there was 26 owners. There's this ownership group that really came together to save the franchise. Men and women from our community, all business owners. It was a bit, at first, I was a bit unsure. Am I going to be answering to 26 owners? Am I going to be restricted in how I can engage with the community? But it ended up being, I have 26 tentacles out there in the community to help put on this show. And it's really been fun. Every owner is just a phone call away, and it's been great. It's a community building organization, and that's really why I decided to join it. You just look behind us right now, it's the community coming together. And that's what I'm all about. So, and it's not just me, it's a big crew behind the scenes.
Speaking of that community, the team's got off to a pretty good start. 2-4, could have been better than that. But what can they expect the rest of the summer? Because as we see, they're excited for Border Cats baseball.
Yeah, sure. So what we can promise as an organization is really to offer affordable family entertainment. We've got fireworks nights, we've got movie nights, theme nights all throughout the season. Our on-field manager JM has put together a great team. We still have more players coming in that are still playing regionals in the U.S. at some schools. So I think you can really expect to see our full roster in the coming weeks. Yeah, we're going to offer something fun, exciting to Thunder Bay. Just get on out here. There's lots to do. It's just not about the baseball. There's a kids zone. There's party decks, cornhole off to the side here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And finally, real quick, Mike, just I remember last week we were speaking, billet families was a little bit of a concern. Where does that lie at this point?
Yeah, so since your last story, we have received more inquiries from billet families. We still are in need. It's only a 40-day commitment, really, of the player being in town. There's a lot of travel. They spend a lot of time at the stadium. So we still are in need. We have to feed a few of the players here at the stadium today because they don't have host families. So Thunder Bay, if you're able to, we appreciate it. You get season tickets, you get swag. It's a really unique experience, and maybe your billet player will be in the major leagues one day.
It's not a bad deal. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to you and your crew for doing this. Appreciate it.
Go and enjoy the game.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, it's time for us to return to the studio. I'll be back shortly for some more Border Cats pregame, but until then, I'll hand it back to the man who was anchoring sports at the last time the Cats played at home, that, of course, being our very own Ryan Benazzo.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. I must have been filling in for the late, great Randy Sheffy at that time. That is Kurt Black live from Port Arthur Stadium, the Thunder Bay Border Cats home opener, the first since 2019. is set to get underway in about half an hour's time. We'll check back in with Kurt later in the news hour.
But first, let's get to the other local news of the day. Policing in the Northwest is about to get more collaborative.
The Thunder Bay and Anishinaabe Police Services have entered into a formal agreement to share resources and information. The landmark agreement was signed today at the City Police Headquarters. Lee Noonan was there.
NAPS Chief of Police Roland Morrison joined Thunder Bay's new police chief, Darcy Fleury, to sign the partnership agreement at Thunder Bay Police Headquarters.
By working together collaboratively, we can tackle the issues that are facing our communities.
Just working together alone is going to make so much difference as far as how we tackle some of the crime that we're faced, some of the social issues that we're facing.
Morrison says the partnership is particularly important given the number of NAN citizens who live in Thunder Bay or travel through the city every day.
What happens here in Thunder Bay do impact our NAN communities and the communities that we police, and it's important that we have the ability to tackle these issues and tackle them together.
The two police services are committing to immediately increasing their sharing of information and of resources.
When we can put our resources together, do things that share our information and really do our best, not only for like Roland mentioned, the people that are living in Thunder Bay, but also the people that are coming to visit, people that come here regularly, and we can help really do our best to ensure that they feel safe coming to this community.
Information sharing between the two organizations has already led to the arrests in Webequie and Casablanca First Nations of two suspects connected to the death of 21-year-old Ivan Achnipaneskum in a Thunder Bay motel.
That we're all living in Northwestern Ontario together, so it's important that we work together and we be seen working together. The time is now to start working, and we know that the issues are many, but it's time to roll up the sleeves and get to work.
Another goal for the partnership is to foster growth and reconciliation through the sharing of police experience and expertise.
It's a bit of an opportunity for us to share experiences where some of our members perhaps might go to some of their communities, some of their members might come down to our community and just experience the different style of policing. So that's an opportunity to do that.
Officer exchanges won't be possible right away, with both police services saying they're facing summer staffing challenges. The earliest we might see NAPS officers in Thunder Bay or Thunder Bay police officers in NAN communities would be this fall. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Local police are investigating after a suspicious driver allegedly approached some minors and offered to drive them to a nearby liquor store. It happened around 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon in the 600 block of Arthur Street West. The youths declined the invitation, but the driver, described as an older white male, asked again before driving away. Police have identified a potential suspect and are making contact as they investigate the incident.
The Thunder Bay Public Library held its final community consultation meeting last night regarding its draft facilities plan.
A large crowd attended the session at the Waverly Library. The plan now is to collect more information and bring a full report to City Council later this month. Mitchell Ringos reports.
Around 50 people came out to Waverly Library for this final consultation session, where library officials presented 3 distinct options for the future. The first option would keep 2 neighborhood branches, downsize 2 others, and add a centralized location to Inner City Mall. Option 2 would see Brodie Library close, while the cheapest option would see Brodie and County Fair close. Attendees had some strong opinions about their preferences.
But any scenario, particularly the main scenario where we have these 4 community branches that are surrounding a central branch in the middle of the city, I think would be the best outcome for all of the people of Thunder Bay, for sure.
I don't think there's even really any negative things from my perspective that would deter people from going to the mall. I mean, it's central.
I would be extremely disappointed if they intended to close any of the neighborhood branches. But I understand funding being what it is and the tax base of the city having decreased substantially over the last several decades. It's going to be a tough choice for the politicians involved.
The cost of upkeep for the current branches is around $7.3 million annually. Option 1 would see a $1.8 million increase. Option 2 would be $1 million, and Option 3 would be an additional $500,000. Library CEO Richard Togman says these numbers would not include the cost to renovate the new space at Inner City, but based off initial numbers, he is optimistic.
Those exact numbers we're still working through, but it's in the range from our preliminary analysis that between $35 and $45 the average person is willing to give on top of their regular taxes if they knew it was going to fund the library system. So that's a huge dollar amount collectively, and one that actually pays for our biggest version of the system.
Togman says they now need to compile everything they gathered and heard from the public to create their final report to be presented to City Council on June 26th. And while Togman is very hopeful, City Councillor Trevor Gertuga, who was appointed to the library board on Monday, didn't have the same optimism about a centralized location.
I got to look into it a lot more, but I mean, I'm not leaning in that direction at this current time. But I mean, you know, if all the information and stats, you know, point us that way, then perhaps we'll go that way.
Togman says they do plan on releasing the full report of the master facilities plan before they head to City Council. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
A local organization is expressing a sigh of relief after City Council approved emergency funding last night.
Evergreen, a United Neighborhood, was at risk of closing its doors this summer before it received $10,000 worth of support. Vasilos Bellos was at City Hall for the decision last night and brings us the details.
After a brief discussion, unanimous approval from City Council to keep a grassroots organization afloat.
Absolutely was a recognition of the value of this organization.
Evergreen, a United Neighborhood, was seeking $10,000 in emergency funding from the city, with fears they'd have to shut their doors down within 3 months without it. Evergreen supports children, youth, and their families living in the Simpson-Ogden area, with the organization struggling for dollars since the pandemic. The funds provided by Council will go to paying Executive Director Linda Bruins.
Part of that was I laid myself off for 4 months, so that was how we were able to save the money.
Bruins mentions that the organization had to take drastic measures to keep its doors open, which included her taking a stretch without a paycheck, and says there was massive relief after Council's decision.
This is 17 years I've been involved in this organization, helping this community, and there's so many fantastic families and kids that come here that rely on our services. I just can't imagine if we weren't there for them.
Bruins was still concerned moving forward, recognizing this isn't consistent funding. Councillor Shelby Chung, who sits on the police board, believes it's something she could appeal to the board to provide Evergreen more sustainability.
Do a deeper dive to have a bit more of a policy, like do we invest in these crime prevention programs, because that's essentially what it is, helping to alleviate costs down the road, hopefully.
Also on Monday's agenda, a call from the Thunder Bay Pickleball Club for the city to launch a feasibility study looking at an 8-court facility at Northwood Park. While the group appreciated courts around the city like the one here at Boulevard Lake, they believe a larger, more accessible facility would benefit the community.
We have to be strategic and not locating it just on the south side or north side. So that one person has to drive half an hour in the winter or in the summer, whatever, you know. So it's important to keep it kind of central as much as we can.
Pickleball club officials also pointed to it being a sport relying on socialization, an aspect that is difficult with a limited number of courts in one area. Some councillors mentioned the 2017 Recreation and Facilities Master Plan that suggests getting away from standalone facilities like the Northwood location would be. Council ultimately decided it needed more information before going forward with a feasibility study and referred the item over to administration. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
City Councilors Rajni Agarwal and Casey Atrani visited St. Bernard School this morning. They hosted a conversation with one of the grade 4 classes on the topics of leadership, civics, and municipal goals.
Yes. More trash cans and recycle.
The students were eager to share their visions for Thunder Bay during the Q&A session, where Agarwal and Atrani explained the role of council and asked the class what improvements they'd like to see made to the city. The kids offered a wide variety of suggestions. Some of them are already in the works, like a veterinary program at LU, conservatory improvements, and fixing Thunder Bay's notorious pothole problem.
We should maybe engage a little bit more and call these little town hall meetings. So town hall is where we get ideas as councillors from the citizens, right? They're our citizens, they're our future leaders, and it's what they want that's going to make a difference to our community. Isn't that amazing? I didn't expect those many answers and such engagement, and especially first thing in the morning. Wow.
And that's the key, the future leader piece. I think they got that message, that they really do have the opportunity to control what our community looks like in the future and to be the future voters for our community as well.
Agarwal and a trainee took note of each suggestion and emphasized how the students can influence these decisions themselves as future voters and leaders of Thunder Bay.
A highway north of Kenora was shut down to all traffic for a short time this afternoon due to a serious incident. Details are scarce at this point, but police say they were called to a confrontation involving a weapon around noon on Highway 658 near Reddit. OPP restricted travel through the area for what they called a serious and ongoing investigation. The highway reopened at around 3 o'clock this afternoon after one person was taken into custody.
Political pressure is heating up at Queen's Park as wildfires rage in Ontario and smoke blankets much of southern and eastern parts of the province.
As Siobhan Morris tells us, there are questions about who's to blame and what needs to be done to reduce the risk.
They're roaring hours away from Toronto, but downtown, in the provincial legislature, you can smell the distinct odor of burning.
With the most severe season ever forecasted, does this government recognize the connection between this worsening weather and the climate crisis?
The minister responsible sidestepped the question.
Speaker, again, the preparation that we put into wildland fire season is immense, and the investments that we have made to ensure that we can properly attack these fires is considerable.
Smith focused on individual actions as opposed to government policy.
Much of Ontario right now is a restricted fire zone, yet we still have examples of people having a campfire or throwing a cigarette butt out the window. That little spark can turn into some of the things that we're dealing with.
Leaving the Green Party leader incredulous.
It's pretty scary when a government minister essentially can't make the link between the fact that the country's on fire, our air quality is putting people's health at risk.
Opposition leaders spotlighted plans to build homes on the Greenbelt and canceling hundreds of green energy contracts. The government says it's improving the reliability and affordability of electricity so more businesses use it.
Making our environment here in Ontario even cleaner and greener than it is today.
The government says it has crews in the air and on the ground working to snuff out stubborn fires.
At this time, we don't have communities under threat, and we're working to make sure that that doesn't happen.
The union speaking for Ontario Fire Rangers says they're 50 crews short this year. Graydon Smith says Ontario can call on other provinces to help put out fires and clear this smoke. But Quebec, for example, has said they don't have enough people to battle their own fires. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Lakehead University held a grand opening ceremony this afternoon for the new Climate Action Park on the banks of Lake Tablin, where work is underway to restore the green space behind the campus. Attendees gathered around the freshly expanded fire pit to learn about local vegetation, conservation efforts, and to hear from community members who contributed to envisioning the space. The park is an effort by the university and community partners to restore Lake Tamblin's aquatic habitats, improve stormwater management, and provide students with opportunities for practical research.
This is, of course, an important ecological region. This is the riparian zone, but also it's a space that sort of invites gathering. So we wanted this to be a place that not only is sort of restoring ecological processes in the name of climate action, but also a place to invite our university community members, our broader community members.
You know, unlike a landscaped park, the idea is to allow people to ongoingly, add to the park. If someone has some learning objectives in one of their class that they can use the space for, that they can add to that. So it's sort of an idea that we're developing and using the space and evolving it over time, sort of like nature would, I suppose.
Galway and Stewart hope to see the area enjoyed not only by LU staff and students, but also by the wide public. And today was a great start with groups of high school students participating in a day of learning and planting with graduates from Lakehead's Faculty of Education.
Well, turning to weather now, Mitch, a little bit cooler today than we've seen over the last week.